What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. We got several different things to talk about here for you guys in this video. First, I want to talk about the student loan forgiveness, which was passed by the president, which is going to provide $10,000 to $20,000 of relief to over 40 million Americans, is being challenged in courts of law by Republicans. This could potentially derail the entire program for 40 plus million Americans and could make it so it doesn't happen. That's right. Now you can see here Biden's student loan forgiveness could be delayed next week as lawsuits continue to mount. Here's where the cases stand. This is interesting because Republicans are suing over this, but it's not like it's only Democrats that are benefiting from this. I mean, the student loan forgiveness is for pretty much anybody with federal student loans. It's over 40 million Americans. It's not just only for Democrats or Republicans or anybody. I mean, it could be for you, it could be for your neighbor, your brother, your sister. It's over 40 million Americans. Yeah, here's the details. President Biden's student loan forgiveness is facing at least 4 different lawsuits from conservative groups, aka Republican groups. A federal judge will hear arguments on one of them next week and decide whether to pause the relief, which is set to start here soon and has already been delayed. The White House says the lawsuits shouldn't impact the release for the forgiveness application. Conservatives, aka Republicans, aren't happy with President Joe Biden's student loan forgiveness, and some of them have taken the policy to court. But remember, this isn't going to raise anybody's taxes. Just like the SNAP program raises, the food stamp raises, and the rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, utility assistance, none of this is raising anybody's taxes. You can let me know your thoughts on this here. The administration faces at least 4 major lawsuits, and a federal judge will hear arguments for one led by Republican states next week. But this is going to help people in the Republican states as well. They could grant the state's request to pause Biden's debt relief plan. Either way, despite a promised application coming out this month, the judge says no debt would be forgiven before October 17th. At the end of August, Biden announced up to $20,000 in debt relief for federal borrowers making under $125,000 a year. It's $10,000 for normal people, $20,000 for the lowest income Americans who are recipients of Pell Grants if they had student loan debts in addition to that. It was a long anticipated announcement, given the relief was something he promised on the campaign trail. While some Democrats wanted the president to go even bigger on loan forgiveness, they still lauded the policy as a significant first step toward addressing the $1.7 trillion student debt crisis. Now, the White House has passed this through the HEROES Act of 2003, and if that gets struck down, they really could reenact this through the Higher Education Act as well. I'm surprised they even didn't do that through the Higher Education Act to begin with, but this is the route they decided to go. If they go through the Higher Education Act, that almost alone would seal the deal. But as of right now, they've changed a few things already in response to these lawsuits. For example, one of the lawsuits was the Republicans are really trying hard to find somebody who would be harmed by the student loan forgiveness. They've really been, it's been very hard to find somebody. For example, they found one guy who was already getting student loan forgiveness through another program. And remember that Congress passed a law that said there will be no federal taxes on student loan, federal taxes. There's a few states that are potentially going to charge state taxes. So, for example, if you have a 3% state tax, instead of paying the $10,000 in student loans that you might get waived or forgiven, instead of paying the $10,000, you may have to pay 3% state taxes, which would be $300. So, would you rather pay $10,000 or $300? They found one guy who said, "Oh, well, I would be harmed because I'm going to already get student loan forgiveness from this other student loan forgiveness program. And if I have to take Biden's new student loan forgiveness program, I would have to pay state taxes in whatever state he was in." And they had to change the wording on their website, which is, if you want to go to the website, by the way, I'm getting a lot of questions on this. It's studentaid.gov. Studentaid.gov. That's the official government website, studentaid.gov. Okay. Um, they had to change it so that it's not mandatory. Okay. You don't have to take the ten to $20,000 of student loan forgiveness. If you don't want it, if you'd rather not take the help, you don't have to. Okay. So in that case, this one particular person, the lawsuit was thrown out because they said, okay, well, in this case, you don't have to take the student loan forgiveness. So that case was dismissed. So, but the thing is that if the Republicans find one judge and one case, it could throw a wrench in the whole system. Now, this gets particularly dangerous because remember, this is help for over 40 million Americans. You can compare this to like the 12.5% raise that was just enacted for SNAP program, food stamp programs. They also included $8 billion in there for food stamp and food SNAP programs that's going to be enacted through other programs inside there as well. Would that be challenged through a court of law? You also could liken this to the executive order that former President Donald Trump passed. I'll show this on the screen because some people kind of forget that it happened and said that, I always get a few comments saying that never happened. When Trump did his executive order and sent out checks to millions of people for $300 per week for millions of unemployment workers, came up to a total of $1,800 or $2,400 right before the 2020 election. I'll zoom this in here. Um, and he did this with an executive order through the Disaster Relief Fund. Okay. So Trump did an executive order. I remember saying that the Democrats could challenge this in a court of law, but they shouldn't. You shouldn't want to take money away from people who are struggling. The Democrats didn't challenge it in a court of law, and millions of people got helped with some extra money. Kind of a similar situation here, but instead the shoe's on the other foot, and Republicans are deciding to sue to take help away from 40 million Americans. Disappointing to say the least. You can let me know your thoughts on this. Neither of those programs, neither of those executive orders, one done by a Republican president, done by a Democratic president, neither of those programs raise taxes. The SNAP program, done for 40 million Americans, doesn't raise taxes. The rent assistance, the mortgage assistance, the utility assistance, they don't raise taxes. There's all sorts of programs like this going on here all the time. They're not raising taxes for any of these, okay? You can let me know your thoughts here on this, but you got to remember that the government sends out help, and when it's available, you should take it, because the government is oftentimes sending out help to large corporations, billion-dollar corporations. In fact, they just passed a $250 billion bill. Yeah, actually, it came out close to $280 billion, the CHIPS bill. Um, Now, don't get me wrong. I think this was something that we needed to do, the CHIPS bill. But the thing is about this is that it got a lot of criticism by Republicans and Democrats. Senator Bernie Sanders, an independent, criticized this because a large portion of the money, billions and billions of dollars, basically wrote blank checks to billion-dollar corporations like Intel and Nvidia with very little or no stipulations to companies who are already profitable, already in the semiconductor uh, manufacturing facility or industry where they're already making money hand over foot. Okay. And basically, it providing them tax incentives. They don't have to pay taxes on this, that, and the other thing. They're just giving them billions of dollars. So if you think about, and this is the kind of the way that, and it's funny how people will get upset when help goes out to other people. But when help goes out to billion-dollar corporations, and then the corporations don't even have to pay taxes. So we give billions of dollars to corporations, and then when they make money, they get tax incentives, so they don't even have to pay taxes. Nobody gets upset about that, or very few people do. Again, you got to kind of wonder here where the priorities are. Again, and the thing about and that bill was not paid for. It literally just went right onto the government deficit, the government debt. It was almost $300 billion, a third of $1 trillion almost. No pay force, no pay force. But when things like the stimulus package comes out and things like that, they're like, oh, it's got to be paid for. It's got to be 100% paid for. But when they send out billions and billions of dollars to corporations that already make billions of dollars, and they're in extremely profitable industries, the semiconductor industry is one of the most profitable industries. It's like the oil industry or the pharmaceutical industry. What do they get? Not only do we give them billions, but we also give them tax incentives. So when they make money on the billions of dollars that they're getting for free, they don't have to pay taxes on it. But when people get help, oh, we're going to help 40 million people here. We're going to help 40 million people here, 60 million people with the child tax credits. Criticism everywhere. Don't help children. Don't help seniors. Don't help people with student debt who pay on it for decades and decades and decades and can't buy homes because their student debt payments are sometimes half a house payment or full house payment, and they literally have it for 20 or 30 years and can't buy a home. Don't help the people, but it's okay to help billion-dollar corporations. Sometimes you got to kind of think about what Congress is doing and kind of the mindset here of this, because they're going to help these corporations one way or another. And you'll get people saying, oh, but I don't want my tax dollars to go and pay for other people. And I get that mindset. Trust me, I mean, you could put me on a debate team and I could argue either side of the coin. But do you also want your tax dollars to go and pay for corporations that are already making tens of billions of dollars and then give them billions of dollars more? And then when you give them the billions, they're not even going to pay taxes back? Because that is stuff that is already happening. It happens year after year after year. And these are the companies that are like buying off the senators, buying off the congressmen. It's happened time after time again. So honestly, when our fellow man, our fellow women, our fellow neighbors, this is the kind of stuff that is taught in the Bible, when they get help, when people are handed bread, when people are handed food, when people are like actually for the first time ever handed debt relief or food stamp raises, when our fellow man is actually handed something and said, here, this is the first time ever we're going to give you some help and no taxes are going to be raised. You hear the argument, I don't want to pay for somebody else's debt relief, but you're really not because there's no taxes being raised at all. It's just the mindset. It's just the framing. It's just like you're just being pitted against one another. We don't need to do that. We need to be the United States of America. We need to be happy for our neighbor. And by the way, I'm not benefiting from this. Me and my wife already paid off our student loans before this happened. We could be the perfect type of person to be so mad at this and be mad at the world and be mad at our neighbors. And I could have also been mad at Trump's executive order when he gave up billions of dollars to the unemployed people. I wasn't getting unemployed checks. I could have been mad at Trump and mad at the world for doing that. No, that's not what I said. Exact words. You can go back and watch my videos and said, the Democrats should not challenge that because those are unemployed people who just lost their jobs during the pandemic. The Democrats should not challenge that because those people really need the help right now. They need it so they don't lose their homes, they don't get kicked out of their apartment, their children aren't on the streets, and those people are very thankful to get that right now. Again, let's try to be happy for our fellow man, especially when they're not increasing taxes. I mean, if anything, tax rates are at an all-time low right now. 61% of people in the last tax year that we have data on actually paid no federal taxes. None. When it all came back to getting your tax refund and your stimulus checks and stuff as kind of a rebate on your taxes. So if anything, taxes are at an all-time low. So if anything, if people are getting some help and taxes are at an all-time low, and corporations are going to get their help. They're going to get their handouts. They're buying off these politicians left and right, anyways. People, for once, are getting some help. So I think it's a good thing. Thankfully, we have all these states giving some help out as well. We have 33 different states that are passing out stimulus checks, tax rebate checks, property tax rebate checks. Some states are lowering, or maybe I should say, yeah, lowering their guidelines for SNAP eligibility, so more people are becoming eligible for SNAP benefits. I just covered a couple of different states. It was Pennsylvania, and I can't remember what the other state was now. But you, maybe if you remember what it was, you can comment it. But there's several states doing that. SNAP raises are happening. We're going to have a massive Social Security raise, probably of over 8%, and Medicare Part B costs went down. It's like the first time ever they were going to have a large COLA raise, and the Medicare Part B. I know it only went down by a few dollars. I get it, but it was better than going up by $21 that it went last year. And inflation is worse than last year, so really it could have went up by $30. So I just hate to see us. We're always bashing the president, whether it's Biden or Trump. We're always trying to impeach the president, whether it's Biden or Trump or whoever the next president is. God bless the next president because he's going to be in for a rough time. Um, and I would just hate to see this student loan forgiveness taken away from 40 million Americans who are like, they're probably like, man, this is going to be such a relief. We actually might be able to catch up on some bills or actually pay off some of our credit card debt. And the next thing, who knows what the next thing could be? It could be credit card debt forgiveness. It could be mortgage debt forgiveness. It could be medical debt forgiveness. These are things that are already potentially talked about. But guess what? They might challenge that too as well. The next program could be for you. If you're not getting the student loan forgiveness, hopefully you are. But guess what the next program could be? They're already talking about potentially medical debt forgiveness and mortgage debt forgiveness and credit card debt forgiveness. These are other things that could be happening in the pipeline. People used to think that student loan debt forgiveness would never happen. And by the way, just so we're all clear, they've already completely canceled, and this has already happened. This isn't part of the 10 to 20,000. So you can see this headline here. Biden administration cancels another $3.9 billion in student loan debt for former for-profit college students. These are colleges that like went out of business and just or defrauded people and left them high and dry with the bills and just completely went out of business. And imagine you're like going to college and the college just went out of business. You didn't get your degree and they left you with the bill because you took out the student loans. So the student loan company didn't care because you already took out the loan, but the college closed or defrauded you. And for people with people with permanent disabilities as well. So again, if you fall underneath any of these categories, go to studentaid.gov. You might qualify for this if you haven't gotten this. Yeah, here's an article from Forbes. The 32 billion has already been forgiven for people that are disabled, their school closed on them, or their school defrauded them. This has already happened. This is official. This is part of the other type of student loan forgiveness programs, and this is not even included the $10,000 to $20,000 for everybody. Okay, so if you fall underneath one of those categories, go to studentaid.gov, and you may have to fill out an application. It might be automatic or it might not, but be aware that that is there. And this is like full student loan forgiveness, where you can wipe out your entire debt. Okay, so that's also there as well, and rightfully so, because if you fall underneath one of those categories, you're probably pretty deserving of it. And again, what the next program might be, because they're talking about forgiving medical debt now in the future. You can see here, fact sheet: the Biden administration announces new actions to lessen the burden on medical debt and increase consumer protection. This is already something that the Biden administration is potentially going to do in the future. They've already taken steps. As of July 1st, your medical debt may no longer hurt your credit score, and medical debt will start falling off credit reports this summer, depending on what type of medical debt you have. So they're already starting to take steps for this type of debt. And this may be the next thing to happen regarding medical debt. This also could happen for credit card debt or mortgage debt in the future. So again, don't be so quick to criticize student loan forgiveness or even Trump's former executive order, which went out to unemployed Americans, because you just never know what the next program might be. It might be for you. And honestly, the student loan forgiveness program might be for you, because again, it's for over 40 million Americans. I'm talking to thousands of Americans right now. It might be for you. It might be for your brother, your sister, your aunt, your neighbor, your family member. Um, and you don't know what the next program is going to be. So I'll keep you up to date here with everything. Remember, there's over 33 states passing state stimulus checks. Some are going out here this week, up to $1,000 actually, or more. I'll link you to a video I just did on that, and what federal programs are going to be coming out. I'll keep you up to date here on that as well. So make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. This way you won't miss out on new videos that come out here on a daily basis. Click the bell icon that appears after you subscribe, and I'll keep you up to date here. You can click here to watch my newest video about stimulus checks that are going out here this week, actually, that you might not even know about. And here is my newest video about Social Security raises. There's a big announcement coming out this week as well. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.